To be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards, but without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry, here.
It'll be a tough deal to make, because the attitudes have to change.
To achieve this purpose, it enforces discipline and uses authority, entering into the soul with and ruling with undisputed sway. It was born of the need of action and was action. So this is Mussolini's The Doctrine of Fascism. So fascism is the state, fascism is action. I'm going back and forth between...
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What is
this interview and the definition of Benito Mussolini's fascism.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
Oh my God, that'd be fucking crazy.
I don't know, they broke it with Biden, because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary.
We wish the working classes to accustom themselves to the responsibilities of management so that they may realize that it is no easy matter to run a business. We will fight both technical and spiritual rear-guardism. It may be objected that this program implies a return to the guilds, corporazioni. No matter! I therefore hope this assembly will accept the economic claims advanced by national syndicalism.
Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff, it was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he...
It is not strange that from the very first day at Piazza San Sepolcro, the word guild, corporazioni, was pronounced, a word which, as the revolution developed, was to express one of the basic legislative and social creations of the regime. There were discussions, but there was something more sacred and more important. Death. Fascists knew how to die. Guise of violent, dogmatic negations, fascism is now clearly defined not only as a regime, but as a doctrine. Fascism does not, generally speaking, believe in the possibility or utility of perpetual peace.
He had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is...
You don't know what happened.
I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But
fascism does not, generally speaking, believe in the possibility or utility of perpetual peace. War alone keys up all human energies to their maximum tension and sets the seal of nobility on those peoples who have the courage to face it. Therefore, all doctrines which postulate peace at all cost are incompatible with fascism. Equally foreign to the spirit of fascism are all internationalistic or league superstructures which, like the International Criminal Court, the United Nations, which, as history shows, crumble to the ground whenever the heart of nations is deeply stirred by sentimental, idealistic, or practical considerations. Fascism carries this anti-pacifistic attitude into the life of the individual. I don't care a damn. Me ne frego. The proud motto It is evidence of a fighting spirit which accepts all risk. I don't care a damn. I don't care a damn. Life as he understands it means duty, elevation, conquest. I don't care a damn.
You're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right. We'll see what we can do about putting it together. Thanks.
Guys, let's go. Guys, come on, let's go.
We'll see. I don't know.
All right, guys. Guys, come on. Wait.
Love of one's neighbor does not exclude necessary educational severity, still less does it exclude differentiation in rank. Fascism will have nothing to do with universal embraces. Fascism, the resolute negation of the doctrine underlying so-called scientific and Marxian socialism, the doctrine of historic materialism, which should explain the history of mankind in terms of the class struggle and by changes in the processes and instruments of production to the exclusion of all else.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have President Zelensky of Ukraine. And we've been working very hard, very close. So we've actually known each other for a long time. We've been dealing with each other for a long time and very well.
Dealing with each other.
We had little negotiation spat, but that worked out great. I think for both countries, I think for the world, actually, beyond both countries. And we have something that is a very fair deal. And we look forward to getting in and digging and working and getting some of the rare earth. But it means we're going to be inside, and it's a big commitment from the United States, and we appreciate working with you very much. And we will continue to do that. We have had some very good discussions with Russia. I spoke with President Putin, and we're going to try and bring this to a close. It's something that you want and that he wants. We'll have to negotiate a deal, but we've started the confines of a deal, and I think something can happen. The big thing is the number of soldiers, mostly at this point, but soldiers.
That the vicissitudes of economic life, discoveries of raw materials, new technical processes, and scientific inventions have their importance no one denies, but that they suffice to explain human history to the exclusion of other factors is absurd. Fascism believes now and always in sanctity and heroism, that is to say, in acts in which no economic motive, remote or immediate, is at work. Fascism denies that the class struggle is the preponderating agent in social transformations. Fascism rejects the economic interpretation of felicity as something to be secured socialistically, almost automatically at a given stage of economic evolution when all will be assured a maximum of material comfort. Fascism denies the materialistic conception of happiness as a possibility and abandons it to the economist of the mid-18th century. After socialism, fascism trains its guns on the whole block of democratic ideologies and rejects both their premises and their practical application and implements.
Is being killed. You're losing thousands of soldiers. So on both sides, we're losing a lot of soldiers, and we want to see it stop. And we want to see the money get put to different kinds of use, like rebuilding. And we're going to be working very hard. But we've had a lot of very good conversations. I will say until we came along, the Biden administration didn't speak to Russia whatsoever. They didn't speak to anybody. They just allowed this to continue. And I will say that, I'll say in front of you, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, if I were president, this war would have never happened. We would have had a deal negotiated for you without having to go through what you've gone through. But your soldiers have been unbelievably brave. We've given them great equipment, but somebody has to use the equipment. They've been unbelievably brave, and we give them great credit. This was supposed to be over very quickly, and here we are 3 years later. So I give tremendous credit to your generals and your soldiers and yourself in the sense that it's been very hard fighting, very tough fighting. They're great fighters. and you have to be very proud of them from that
I'm very
standpoint.
proud.
But now we want to get it over with. It's
Democracy is a kingless regime infested by many kings who are sometimes more exclusive, tyrannical, and destructive than one, even if he be a tyrant. Fascism has outgrown the dilemma, monarchy versus republic, over which democratic regimes too long dallied, attributing all insufficiencies to the former and proning the latter as a regime of perfection, whereas experience teaches that some republics are inherently reactionary and absolutist, while some monarchies accept the most daring political and social experiments. What's going on? The maximum that society exists only for the well-being.
enough, right, if we want to get it over with. So it's an honor to have you here. Thank you very much for coming. We're going to sign the agreement at the conference in the East Room in a little while, right after lunch. And we'll be having lunch together. We're also discussing some other things. And we appreciate everybody being here. It's somewhat of an exciting moment, but the really exciting moment is when they stop the shooting and we end up with a deal. And I think we're fairly close to getting that, and an honor to have you. And please, I'd like to say something.
No, thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you for the invitation.
All right.
And, really, I hope that this first document, will be a first step to real security guarantees for Ukraine, our people, our children. I really count on it. And of course, we count that America will not stop support. Really, for us, it's very important to support and to continue it. I want to discuss it with details further during our conversation, and of course, the infrastructure or security guarantees. Because for today, I understand what Europe is ready to do. And of course, I want to discuss with you what United States will be ready to do. And I really count on your strong position to stop Putin. And you said that enough with the war. I think that is very important, Ben, to say these words to Putin at the very beginning.
The maximum that society exists only for the well-being and freedom of the individuals composing it does not seem to be in conformity with nature's plans, which care only for the species and seem ready to sacrifice the individual. It is much to be feared that the last word of democracy, thus understood, and let me hasten to add that it is susceptible of a different interpretation, would be a form of society in which a degenerate mass would have no thought beyond that of enjoying the ignoble pleasures of the vulgar. In rejecting democracy, fascism rejects the absurd conventional lie of political equalitarianism, the habit of collective irresponsibility, the myth of felicity and indefinite progress. But if democracy be understood as meaning a regime in which the masses are not driven back to the margin of the state, and then the writer of these pages has already defined fascism as an organized, centralized, authoritarian democracy. Fascism is definitely and absolutely opposed to the doctrines of liberalism, both in the political and the economic sphere. Liberalism really flourished for 15 years only. It arose in 1830 as a reaction to the Holy Alliance, which tried to force Europe to recede further back. Then in 1789, it touched its zenith in 1848, when even Pius IX was a liberal. Its decline began immediately after that year. If 1848 was a year of light and poetry, 1849 was a year of darkness and tragedy. The Roman Republic was killed by a sister republic, that of France. In that same year, Marx, in his famous Communist Manifesto, launched the gospel of socialism.
The very beginning of war, because he is a killer and terrorist. But I hope that together we can stop him. But for us, it's very important to, to save our country, our values, our freedom, the democracy, and of course, no compromises with the killer about our territories. But it will be later. And of course, what I wanted, we spoke about it by phone with you about the drones production. We have very good drones production. I think the best one in the world for today because of the war. Yes, and of course we need very much the air defense. You have the best air defense in the world, and really you helped us under attacks of Russians, and I want to speak how we can exchange the licenses. We're open to share the licenses of all our drones with you, of course, with the United States, and we need licenses for quick production of air defense. Even after the war, we need our nation to be calm, that we are secure. So that's why we need this air shield. And of course, about this, I want to speak about the contingents. I think that France and UK already spoke to you, and we know that Europe is ready, but without the United States, they will not be ready to be as strong as we need. And the last point, last not least, about exchange, about our people and children. And you know that these crazy Russians, that they stolen 20,000 of children, Ukrainian children. They changed their names, they changed their families, relatives, and now they're in Russia. We want to bring them back, and really, it's a big dream, task, and goal for me, and our warriors. By the way, Mr. President, we exchanged, released more than 4,000 warriors from Russian prison, but there are thousands more in the prison. I wanted to.
In 1851, Napoleon III made his illiberal coup d'etat and ruled France until 1870, when he was turned out by a popular rising. Following one of the severest military defeats known to history, the victor was Otto von Bismarck, who never even knew the whereabouts of liberalism and its profits. It is symptomatic that throughout the 19th century, the religion of liberalism was completely unknown to so highly civilized a people as the Germans, but for one parenthesis, which has been described as the ridiculous Parliament of Frankfurt, which lasted just one season. The three stages in the making of German unity were the three wars of 1864, 1866, and 1870, led by such liberals as Moltke and Bismarck. Activism, that is to say nationalism, futurism, fascism, as though history were a preserve set aside for liberalism and its adepts, as though liberalism were the last word in civilization beyond which no one can go.
To share with you some images, how it's, just can I now?
Yeah,
please. Some minute, 1 minute. I just you to understand in what circumstances, in what situation they are, and what the attitude of Russia to our prisoners. That guys, just you before and after. And you see before and after, just you to understand. Now thousands of such guys, ladies and men, there, and that, so they don't eat, they beat them, and they do a lot of bad things. So out of, even during the war, there are rules. Everybody knows there are rules during the war. So these guys, they don't have any rules. You see that 50, 60 kilograms left, and a lot of such things. And I didn't want to show you what the changes with images of children, because I will just share with you. And I mean, it's looking tragic.
Yep, that's tough stuff.
I wanted very much to give you, and you see it.
Yeah.
This is pastor, by the way. They stolen pastors, because it's not Russian church. They stolen pastors and moved pastors to the prison. At the end of last year, we brought 3 pastors, and we could exchange them. And this is pastor, you see.
The fascist negation of socialism, democracy, and liberalism should not, however, be interpreted as implying a desire to drive the world backwards to positions occupied prior to 1789, a year commonly referred to as that which opened the demo-liberal century. History does not travel backwards. The fascist doctrine has not taken de maistre as its prophet. Monarchical absolutism is of the past, and so is ecclesialatry. Dead and done for our feudal privileges and the division of society into closed, uncommunicating caste. Neither has the fascist conception of authority anything in common with that of a police-ridden state. A lot of this is bullshit, but he's right at the top says the fascist negation of socialism, democracy, and liberalism. So what does a fascist say? Well, fascist hates liberals, right? They hate socialism, they hate Democrats, democracy, small d democracies, democratic people. They hate, socialism, democracy, and liberalism. And when I think about what defeats fascism, well, you've had, anarchism, communism, democratic socialism, anti-fascism has defeated fascism, World War II, but also classical liberalism, American constitutionalism, strong Americans. Strong Americans defeated Nazis, defeated fascism, Italy, Germany, Japan. To me, a liberal is one who has a bleeding heart, who believes in the community and believes in change. There's something to be said about class reductionism. Intersectionality does have something to do with class. And while the strengths, when it comes to the strengths, I take the things that they're saying about fascism and I apply it to American constitutionalism, to classical liberalism, to being a strong American. I reject communism and anarchism, at least for the time being, and anti-fascism is just being a man. Democratic socialism, I think there's some room for democratic socialism alongside with classical liberalism, American constitutionalism, being a strong American. So by being a strong American, we can care about every one of us out here. We can give a damn, look after our pocketbooks, and be for constant change. You see what right there? This is in Benito Mussolini's own words. Fascism is against socialism, it's against democracy, and it's against liberalism.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, so I mean this I wanted to show you and this, so thank you very much.
We want to get that ended, right?
Yeah, of course we
And I
want.
think we will. And
We have to, of course.
do you have any questions, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. With the, how much money is the U.S. going to put into the fund that is being created today, and how does this provide long-term security for Ukraine?
Well, we don't know exactly how much because we're going to be putting some money in a fund that we're going to get from the raw earth that we're going to be taking and sharing in terms of revenue. So it's going to be a lot of money will be made from the sale and from the use of raw earth. And as you know, our country doesn't have much raw earth. We have a lot of oil and gas, but we don't have a lot of the raw earth. And what we do have is protected by the environmentalists, but that can be unprotected. But still, it's not very much. They have among the best in the world in terms of raw earth. So we're going to be using that, using it for all of the things we do, including AI, and including weapons and the military, and it's really going to very much satisfy our needs. So it's something that just worked out really well. We have a lot of oil, we have a lot of gas, we have a lot, but we don't have raw earth. So this has just about every component of the raw earth that we need for computers, for all of the things we do.
And
this puts us in great shape.
And on long-term security for Ukraine, how does this provide it?
I think they're going to have great luck. I think once we make the agreement, that's going to be 95% of it. They're not going to go back to fighting. I've spoken with President Putin, and I feel very strong. I've known him for a long time, and I feel very strongly that they're very serious about it. And
a party governing a nation totalitarianly is a new departure in history. There are no points of reference nor comparison. Bullshit, the kings and queens, the absolutism before 1789. From beneath the ruins of liberal, socialist, and democratic doctrines, fascism extracts those elements which are still vital. That is to say, fascism rejects the idea of a doctrine suited to all times and to all people. This is a century of authority, a century tending to the right, a fascist century. If the 19th century was the century of the individual, liberalism implies individualism. We are free to believe that this is the collective century and therefore the century of the state. It is quite logical for a new doctrine to make use of the still vital elements of other doctrines. No doctrine was ever born quite new and bright and unheard of. No doctrine can boast absolute originality. Hence the pragmatic strain in fascism, its will to power, its will to live, its attitude towards violence, and its value. The keystone of the fascist doctrine is its conception of the state, of its essence, its functions, and its aims. For fascism, the state is absolute, individuals and groups relative. The fascist state is wide awake and has a will of its own. For this reason, it can be described as ethica. The state, as conceived and realized by fascism, the state guarantees the internal. The state is not only the present, it is also the past, and above all, the future. The state educates the citizens to civism. Civics, they don't teach civics in high school anymore. It makes them aware of their mission, urges them to unity. Its justice harmonizes their divergent interests. It transmits to future generations the conquest of the mind in the fields of science, art, law, human solidarity. It leads men up from primitive tribal life to that highest manifestation of human power, imperial rule. Names of the captains who enlarged its territory and of the men of genius who made it famous can only be settled by state action and within the orbit of the state. Even Adam Smith left the door ajar, however cautiously, for government intervention in business.
And we'll make a deal, and when the deal is made, I don't think, we talk about security, everyone's talking about the other day, all they talked about was security. I said, let me make the deal first. I have to make the deal first. I don't worry about security right now. We have to have a deal, because right now, last week, 2,000 soldiers died on both sides. 2,000. And they're losing 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 a week. So as we sit here and we talk, people are getting shot and dying on the battlefield. And, you know, they're not American soldiers, but they're Russian soldiers and they're Ukrainian soldiers, and we want to be able to stop it. And we want to be able also to spend money on other things. We don't want to, this is a tremendous amount of money, and what the Biden administration did was terrible. They were giving money, but he had no security on the money. Europe, as you know, gave much less money, but they had security. It was in the form of a loan. They get their money back, and we didn't. And now, at least we're protected, because the American taxpayer has to be protected too. But
if liberalism spells individualism, fascism spells government, splitting up of parties, the usurpation of power by parliaments, the irresponsibility of assemblies. He's against everything that America is for. America is about the three branches of government, the 8 American constitutional strengths. When I talk about America strong Americanism, I'm talking about the 3 branches of government. I'm talking about elections, the Bill of Rights, the great, immortal, incredible Bill of Rights, constitutionalism, the rule of law, enumerated powers, bicameralism, and federalism. When it comes to what a fascist is, this is all propaganda, and it's interesting with all the arguments that Mussolini felt like he had to fight against. So when I hear people talking against, liberalism, well, I think you might be a fucking fascist, okay? When it comes to fascists believe in the state. They don't care about the individuals. They're authoritarian. They're totalitarian. They think that the king, the elected president, the president who took over, the terrorist who takes over, get to rule over everybody 100% all the time. Authoritarian, totalitarian, hierarchical, pro-violence. They're against classical liberalism, modern liberalism. They're against socialism. They're against democracy. They're for bullyism, controlism, oppressionism, barbarism, troglodytism, Neanderthalism, the love of jungoism. They love power. They want to command others. And above all, they love the state. America is a collection of 50 states. Basically, to me, to try to summarize it real simply, fascism is the bully who tries to steal your lunch money. A bully wants to take your lunch money. Well, why do you get to take my lunch money? That's my lunch money. That's my lunch money. Why do you think you get to take my lunch money? I need my lunch money for my lunch. I heard about this kid just beating up another kid because he's weak. Well, something about Malcolm X. If somebody lays their hands on you, then you got to send them to the cemetery. So when a fascist thinks that you're weak and they hit you, they're really setting up a situation where it could be a bloody fight that could end in serious bodily damage or even fatal. When a fascist attacks you, they're basically calling out your manhood. And in some respects, you have a right to defend yourself. That fight could be fatal. When Russia stops, the war stops. If Ukraine stops, the war does not stop. We have a right to defend ourselves, and when a bully wants to take over another nation, when a bully wants to take another country, they're basically doing the same thing that, a bully would do when they take your lunch money. This is my country. This isn't your country. This is my house. This is my wife. This is my, the money in your pocket is my money. And if you don't do something about it, it's just they're setting up a fight to the death. Strong borders create strong neighbors. Russia should have respected the border of Ukraine. Russia is a big-ass country. Russia, I think, is the biggest country in the world. They got the largest landmass in the world. You can't develop your northern part of you can't go east, you can't go west, north, south. You got the whole fucking landmass. You got all of goddamn Asia. Yeah, it's cold, whatever, get some heat up in the fucking north. You got so much land, so much territory. And yet it wants to steal somebody else's land. It wants to steal somebody else's land. And it's bullshit.